The notes.
It just says, ask him about the Batman movie, the new Batman
what
movie.
I wanted to kind of take away, because I'm not judgmental.
You're not judgmental. Oh, you don't want to talk about this.
I don't want to talk
People
about...
People want you to talk about this.
You do?
Yes, they do.
What I wanted to kind of take away, because I'm not judgmental, you're not Judge O. You don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about people want you to talk about this. You do? Yes, they do. Adam West signed what looked like a dream contract in 1966. Batman made him a household name overnight. The show generated $3.5 billion in merchandise sales. Action figures, lunchboxes, costumes flew off shelves worldwide. West was promised 5% of all merchandising profits. But when he checked his bank account, there was nothing. The studio had used one simple word in his contract: to steal everything. That word created a loophole so devastating it changed Hollywood forever. What they did to West was perfectly legal, but completely criminal. He was born William West Anderson on September 19, 1928 in Walla Walla, Washington. His father, Votto, worked long hours tending apple orchards, while his mother, Audrey, a trained opera singer and pianist, never let go of her Hollywood dreams. She had once chased the spotlight herself, but gave it up to raise her sons. At home, she was dramatic, artistic, and unpredictable. Adam would later describe her as gifted, but tormented, caught in cycles of alcoholism and depression. Yet even through the chaos, she passed something to him. A hunger for performance, a need to be seen. His father, quiet and steady, gave him structure. But it was his mother's strange mix of ambition and sadness that left the deeper mark. One day in 1938, when he was just 10, he picked up a copy of Detective Comics. They were 27. On the cover, a shadowy man in a cape leapt across rooftops. It was Batman's debut. Something about the darkness, the logic, the secrecy of it all pulled him in. It was the first time he saw that heroes didn't have to be loud or invincible. They could be clever. They could be haunted. He read those comics endlessly, acted out scenes in the backyard, mimicked voices, and imagined himself inside the panels. It wasn't just entertainment. It was a blueprint for escape. But at 15, his parents' marriage collapsed. He left Walla Walla with his mother and younger brother and moved to Seattle. His mother remarried a neurosurgeon named Dr. Paul Flothow, and they settled into a massive stone mansion. Audrey began throwing parties again, filling the house with musicians and artists, as if trying to build the life she never got to finish. West, now a teenager, was soaking it all in. Seattle was louder, faster, and stranger than the quiet fields of his childhood. Theaters and radio stations became his new classroom. The city's pulse began to shape him. He had a wild streak. Hester did high school in Walla Walla, but was expelled. Then at Lakeside School, a posh prep academy in Seattle, he got in more trouble. One night, he and his friend Harry Hutchinson stole a school bus and drove it all the way to Tacoma for girls and champagne. The school was ready to toss him out again, but it talked his way back in. They let him stay, but made him live with a strict math teacher. Even with all the drama, he thrived. Sports, student government, school plays. He became known for his voice, deep and smooth. Friends called him Tex Anderson, and he leaned into that cowboy charm. It was at Lakeside where he learned how to hold an audience. After graduation, he returned to Walla Walla and enrolled at Whitman College. He studied literature and psychology and joined Beta Theta Pi. He joined the speech team and found himself drawn to persuasion and performance. During his senior year in 1950, he married a fellow student named Billy Luyerger. She was only 17. To keep food on the table, he worked in canneries and ranches during summers. After college, he got a job as a radio announcer while saving up to attend Stanford. But instead of enrolling, he drifted. He pretended to study at UC Santa Barbara one summer, but spent most of it sunbathing. He was chasing something, but he didn't know what yet. In 1951, the Korean War came calling. He was drafted, but never saw the front lines. Instead, he used his voice. The Army placed him at the American Forces Network, where he became an on-air announcer. He spent 2 years broadcasting news, weather, and morale-boosting shows from bases in California and New Jersey. This wasn't just service. It was his training ground. He learned how to speak live, how to write scripts, how to hold attention. He didn't know it yet, but these long days at AFN were building the foundation of his career. When he got out in 1953, he went back home and took a job as a milkman. It was thankless work. Early mornings, long routes, aching arms, Booth never stopped hustling. He'd deliver milk in the dark, then rush to radio stations for auditions. His voice got him small parts, a few local commercials. He kept going, convinced something would break. He told French do whatever it took that even a man in a milk truck could dream of Hollywood. By 1954, he was ready for a bigger leap. He packed up and moved to Hawaii with Billy and their 2 kids. There he landed a sidekick job on the Caney Popo Show, a quirky children's program that featured a chimp named Peaches. West improvised sketches on air, ad-libbing jokes, and talking tokids through the screen. The production was small, but the laughs were real. By 1956, he became the host and earned $50 per episode. That money didn't stretch far, but the spotlight was starting to find him. His confidence grew and the island audience loved his timing, his voice, and his unpredictable charm. In 1957, with a little traction under his belt, he changed his name. William West Anderson became Adam West. He needed something memorable, something with rhythm. The new name matched the imagery he wanted to project. Classic, rugged, slightly mysterious. That same year, his marriage began to crack. The back-and-forth trips from Hawaii to Los Angeles wore thin. He auditioned for pilots. He slept on couches. He wrote letters. He made calls. It was grueling. He told himself it was worth it. Every rejection felt like a test. His first Hollywood role came in 1959. It was small. He played a courtroom spectator in The Young Philadelphians, starring Paul Newman. 2 days of filming earned him $200, but he used that credit to book roles on Bonanza and other westerns. He found a niche playing slick gamblers and outlaws. Between 1959 and 1961, he played Doc Holliday in 3 different shows, Sugarfoot, Colt 45, and Lawman. These weren't headline roles, but people noticed he had a way of delivering lines that made them stick. He was building something. In 1962, he finally landed his first lead in a movie. Gono, Austin shot in the blistering heat of Utah. West played Captain Starbucks opposite Chuck Connors. He made $5,000 for the role. It was the most he'd ever earned. The shoot was grueling with 6 weeks of sunburn and dust, but it proved it could carry a film. That same year, he played a charming villain on Perry Mason and a mysterious alien on The Outer Limits in 1964. He wasn't TYP cast anymore. He could do comedy, sci-fi, drama. He could disappear into roles, but Hollywood was fickle. In 1963, Helen did a part in Soldier in the Rain, a comedy drama with Steve McQueen and Jackie Gleason. West played a quirky sergeant. He was proud of the work, but the movie flopped. It brought in just $1.5 million against a $2 million budget. Worse, West had spent $1,200 moving to LA for the part. The flop left him in debt. He scrambled for TV guest roles to stay afloat. He kept going, always chasing, always one role away. In 1964, Adam West found himself under the scorching sun of Death Valley, California, where he was cast as Major Dan McCready in Robinson Crusoe on Mars. It was a modest science fiction film with a $1.5 million budget. And for 12 straight weeks, West and his co-star Paul Manti. But none of that mattered when Batman aired on January 12, 1966. The premiere episode, Hi Diddle, Riddle, pulled 20 million viewers. West deadpanned his lines, including the now famous, "Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb." And it worked. What the producers had doubted his comedic timing turned out to be his biggest strength. By mid-1966, Batman was the 5th most watched show in America. At first, West made $2,000 per episode, or $4,000 for each two-parter. By the end of the first season, he negotiated a raise to $2,150, still meant shooting 2 episodes a week, wearing the suffocating suit under heat lamps, and getting little rest. His physical health began to suffer. Thekau limited his neck movement, making every action scene a battle against discomfort. Eventually, his pay matched that of Yvonne Craig, who played Batgirl. But Burt Ward, who played Robin, wasn't so lucky. He started at just $350 per episode and only reached $450 by the end, even though he was in early every scene. Worse, he made nothing from merchandising, even though Batman toys generated an estimated $3.5 billion by 1970. Ward once said, "Even the hairdresser got paid more than it did." The show's style was loud and bright, full of pout and bam effects that West encouraged to parody comic books. Emmy nominations followed for the bold set design. When a writer's strike hit in 1967, episodes were rushed, and West and Ward often had to improvise. Lines like, "Holy sardine," Batman became crowd favorites. Behind the scenes, West didn't just fight for his own pay, he filmed a PSA during the strike, standing beside Yvonne Craig to demand equal compensation for women in Hollywood. It wasn't a scripted stunt, it was a real stand, and it surprised people who thought of West as just another costumed actor. In July 1966, West made the leap to the big screen in the Batman movie. He asked for $150,000, but settled for $100,000. During filming, a staged submarine explosion nearly burned off his eyebrows. Theta-hydrator plotline, villains turning people into dust, was absurd, but the fans loved it. The $1.5 million budget covered gadgets, sets, and the Batboat and Batcopter, which later appeared in the show. Opening week brought in $1.9 million in ticket sales, selling more than 1.2 million tickets at $150 each. The merch machine was already roaring. By 1970, the Batman brand had rad in $3.5 billion. Kids wore capes to school, lunchboxes, action figures, and the famous Batmobile toy flooded shelves. The ideal Captain Action Batman outfit, complete with utility belt and gadgets, was a bestseller. One unopened box would later sell $350 at auction. The strategy was genius: sell one toy, then upsell the costume packs forever. Future lines like Lego and Funko Pop would mimic this formula. West's fame peaked that same summer: magazine covers, TV interviews, 500 autographs a day. He once signed so many that his hand cramped mid-meal. Someone offered him $50,000 to endorse a Batman-themed cereal. He refused, afraid of coming a punchline. He didn't want to be a mascot. Instead, he managed his fame carefully, staying visible without becoming ridiculous. The movie's most famous scene, the Riddler's chessboard trap, wasn't even in the script. Director Leslie Martin's son and the cast improvised it after noticing early audience reactions to wordplay. They leaned in, puns flew. Frank Gorshin, who played the Riddler, turned every tape into a gag. The result was pure Batman, chaotic, colorful, and clever. It didn't just entertain. It changed how superhero stories could be told, blending comedy and danger with ease. Then came the New York premiere, Times Square, July 1966. More than 15,000 people stormed the theater. Police couldn't hold them back. West had to be snuck in through the back. He missed the party. He missed their carpet, but he didn't miss the moment. Newspapers called it the wildest fan frenzy since Beatlemania. That night, Adam West understood what Batman had become. Not just a TV show, but a cultural eruption, and he was right at the center of it. When Adam West first signed his 1966 contract for the Batman TV series, the promise looked simple enough. He and Burt Ward were guaranteed 5% of the merchandising royalties to their likenesses. It sounded like a fair reward for being the faces of a cultural phenomenon. But as Batman became a global craze with masks, action figures, lunchboxes, Halloween costumes, and even breakfast cereal pouring into stores, the truth was hidden behind a maze of technicalities. By the time merchandise sales passed $3.50 billion, West and Ward hadn't seen a single dollar. The producers at 20th Century Fox and ABC didn't need to break the contract to cheat them. They just routed the profits through corporate subsidiaries, redefining everything sold as promotional tie-ins instead of actual merchandise. Because these promotions were technically never sold by the studio itself, West and Ward share